Now, the attitude of the Indian government with reference to this particular sector has been very well captured in the book. It says, water shapes its course according to the nature of the ground over which it flows. The soldier works out his victory in relation to the foe whom he is facing. In warfare, there are no constant conditions.
We would see the industry consolidating. The Indian industry would consolidate. Now, as Sun Tzu says, when in difficult country, do not encamp. In a country where high roads intersect, join hands with your allies. Do not linger in dangerously isolated positions. If you import this quote and relate it to the strategy which would be followed in India, it would mean that the Indian banks, small little Indian banks, would not allow themselves to get isolated. It would not be a prudent sense to allow themselves to be isolated, because they would eventually get gobbled up or wiped out by the competition. So what would happen is, these banks would come together, join hands, consolidate their energy, and then would get bigger and stronger. The example would be small Indian state banks consolidating themselves together to come with the State Bank of India and emerging as a bigger force.
Well, that was quite a useful insight from Shweta and Siddharth. Now, Zamir, what about the foreign players? What do you think would their strategies be?
It will depend on the ground they are actually trading on. If we are on temporizing ground, when the position is such that neither side gains by making the first move and the situation remains as a deadlock. For example, rural banking, there is a foreign player. It would not try to get into the rural banking segment to tap the potential customer, but it does know that there is a huge customer base there. But however, it would wait for a local player, a national player, to get into the rural segment to see how they actually devise strategies, how they perform, how they actually cater to the segment, what are the different kinds of products that they have to cater to that particular segment, and only then a foreign player would try and enter. Why? They do not want to take the risk, and moreover, it's more advisable for the foreign player not to just enter into a segment of that sort. So that's the only reason why how we are trying to relate what companies actually adopt as strategy, not to just enter into a market, but however, see what the local players are doing, and once they do well, you can always get into a segment where you can always get and adopt the same kind of strategies, so that they also can do well, equally well for that segment, and cater to the needs of that particular segment.
Well, that's very interesting, Zamir. Now, let's just take another concept from the art of war, that is the concept of intersecting ground. Now, what happens is, there is this ground which has been surrounded by people, and the person who moves in first will be actually the one that's going to attract masses. So, how do you correlate with that Indian banking system?
The annual growth rate in bank credit to the commercial sector was 25.4% in 2007. By 2010, retail banking is expected to grow at a compounded annual growth rate of 28% to touch a figure of rupees 9,700 billion, according to the Federation of Indian Chambers of Commerce and Industry. So the scope for business operations in both the commercial and the retail sector is phenomenal in India. But in such a market, it is very important that the leader, that is the central bank in this case, does what is best for the country, irrespective of the criticism or praise. Because the general who advances without coveting fame and retreats without fearing disgrace, whose only thought is to protect his country and to do good service for his sovereign, is the jewel of the kingdom.